Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Cool name.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And shall I pronounce your last name as
Oh yeah,
Drolshagen?
yeah. The way to say it is Drolshagen,
Drolshagen. Got it.
and then just put it together. Drolshagen.
Super. Thank you so much, Joseph. Okay, let's start.
Okay.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast, where we explore the balance between personal well being and professional success. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are joined by a very special guest with us, Joseph Drolshagen. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Well, it's great to be here with you, Sada. Like I was telling you earlier, it's like I love the mission of your podcast. God, it's so badly needed right now
Yes,
with
yes.
small business owners and entrepreneurs, and yeah. So I'm excited to be here.
Lovely. So, listeners, before we dive deep into today's topic, I would love to introduce my guest to all of you. Joseph Drolshagen, featured in Fox, CBS, and NBC, has been named the top business coach in America for 4 consecutive years. With over 30 years of experience helping small business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals grow their businesses, Joseph has developed a unique method called subconscious mindset training. SMT, to help people unlock their potential and create the life they desire. And today on the Mindful Living podcast, we'll be diving into the ever elusive concept of work life balance and how reprogramming the subconscious mind can be the key to achieving both professional success and personal freedom. So, listeners, let's get started. So, Joseph, welcome to the show once again. It's an absolute honor to have you with us.
Well, I feel the same way, Sana. I'm excited about it for a powerful conversation here.
Joseph, so your subconscious mindset training, SMT method, it's revolutionary for business growth. But how does it help people find balance in their personal lives as well?
Yeah, so I'm the guinea pig of all the works I do today. I started a 28-year career up to a vice president of sales, building territories, leading teams, growing teams, and helping companies in bankruptcy back to profitability. And so, in doing that, I've hit all those hurdles, those hard points, those exhaustive actions, massive efforts, things like that with it and stuff. So, and what it is we typically somebody will get a business idea, they'll get the business started, and the first thing they do is sit down and strategize their entire plan of how they're going to do it. Mm-hmm. That outputs all the exhaustive to-dos and all of that stuff. And what they're skipping over is getting into alignment with what we want. When we do that, and that's what the SMT method is geared to do, is to help take a pause and get into alignment so the actions we're taking are having the best, the biggest results to them and such. And so as we do that and as we start aligning to that, all of a sudden we start noticing things happening easier. When I was first starting in sales and building sales territories and stuff, I was trying my best to do what I could, to build things, and I just wasn't getting results. And so I did what most people do. I put more effort into it. I put more hours into it. And I ended up traveling 3,000 to 5,000 miles weekly, Sana, trying to build sales territories and still not getting any headway to it. Once I understood what was really holding me back, which the SMT method is geared to bring out, excuse me, which is that conditioning within the subconscious, our patterns, paradigms, our even experiences we haven't had ourselves, but somebody told us, our belief systems, all of that stuff. Once we understand that, the SMT method holds tools to quickly shift that and open up the door to greater results for our efforts. So it allows people to open up freedom of time while they're growing their business.
That's really interesting. How did you arrive at this observation that a better and efficient way to tap into that concept of work-life balance, it all ties up with the subconscious mind? How did you arrive at that conclusion?
I only did it honestly through hard knocks. Like I tried all kinds of things that I could think of. Once that didn't work, I started doing, reading books on it. And then I started taking self-help programs. And then I started working with other coaches. And although I learned from those avenues, it never really gave me the results I wanted. Those the coaching organizations that have your success plan, or they know the steps to get to whatever, 10 times your business, things like that and stuff. None of those ever worked for me. And I thought there was something wrong with me. I had done a lot of studies on the conscious mind, but the conscious mind is the knowing of what we want. Well, once all those things failed, I just kept seeking and seeking. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't do it yet. So many people seem to be doing it, and they seem to be living happy and doing so easier than what I was doing, is when I started understanding the subconscious mind and how powerful that is. Because like I said, Sana, our conscious mind is the knowing of what we desire, what our goals are, what our plan, our vision is, things like that. But that subconscious is what triggers the brain waves to the actions we take or we don't take. So growing up in a very low-income blue-collar family in Detroit, Michigan, my conditioning struggle. When I was in my early 20s, if something came easy to me, I thought I didn't earn it because I didn't work hard enough for it.
Oh.
And identifying and shifting those things is how you start opening up the door to start achieving greater outcomes, to start allowing for greater potential to come into our lives without all the massive actions, exhaustive efforts, and all that. So it was kind of hap chance, kind of spiritual, kind of like all kinds of things that brought me to that, because I didn't know what to do. Once I understood the subconscious mind and how powerful it is in the creation of the lives that we live, is I got a coach that specialized in that. I started working with them. We started shifting things. And all of a sudden I went from like the bottom of the pack in the sales organizations I was in to landing contracts of multi-year contracts of 18 million, 22 million, $25 million, and which then gained me up to a vice president. So I was able to then take and vice president of sales, lead sales teams, and help people within the sales organization to grow into the top performers level.
Excellent. That's really awesome. Great, Joseph. So as you led sales teams, what are some of the most common challenges professionals face that you have observed when trying to balance work and life, and how do you address these?
Yeah, that's really good. Great question. And probably the biggest one for business owners is outside influences or outside situations and circumstances. So many people will look at the state of the economy and they'll go, well, nobody can grow in this. Or they'll look at the competition where there's way too much competition, or they'll look at things like that and blame it on that. But that's never, ever the case. And evidence of that is you can look at times when we're having a bottom in our economy or a low in our economy. And so there's companies that make the greatest launches and growth that they've ever experienced. And then you can look at organizations at times when like it's a boom economy and there's companies struggling. So it's not about the competition. It's not about the state of the economy. We use those to put the blame on it, but it's really our internals that are directing and guiding how far we're going to go and when. I literally have clients. I talked to a guy yesterday that he's grown a pretty successful business, and he has, I think he said 6 bank accounts right now because it scares him to get over $100,000 in a bank account. So he goes underneath that in all these different accounts. That's conditioning right there. There's something going on under the surface, that's causing him to look at that, to have that fear, to look at it. And fear, I mean, in endless, numerous ways, is another thing that my clients face. They're afraid their business isn't going to succeed, or they're afraid of this, or some people are truly afraid of success. I had to face that myself, coming from where I came from. Sana, doing what I do, talking to you right now today, helping organizations grow at the rapid pace and the amount that they grow. It's unrealistic that I would be here speaking to you on this stuff based on the way I was raised.
Exactly. That is true. You have achieved incredible success, Joseph, helping people scale their businesses rapidly. So, how do you ensure that this growth doesn't come at the expense of their mental health or personal time?
Again, one of the first things I have to do with a majority of my clients coming from business, entrepreneurs, things like that, is I have to get them to throttle back a little bit, because what happens is we start going so fast. We try to go 150 miles an hour, work out, and we're conditioned to do that, right? I mean, even coaching programs talk about you got to take massive actions, exhaustive efforts. If you want something, you got to be willing to trade off your life for it, and all that. I didn't want success that bad in order to have to do those things. And back when I did, it just exalted me, and I didn't end up with I wasn't any further ahead with it. So in doing this, I'll give you an example. I worked with a company in 13 years in business. She was doing $7.5 million a year. In the 12 months we worked together, she toppled over $22 million a year.
Wow.
She's been maintaining that, that level for the last 7 years. But the year of that growth was the only year of her adult life that she took 5 weeks of vacation. Because, one of the things I learned early on and model a lot of the stuff I do after is success is not about doing certain things. And we exhaust ourselves and beat up our health and take time from our family and everything else, trying to do certain things to get successful.
Yes.
Successful people do things a certain way. And when we understand that, when we shift that conditioning, it just starts opening that doorway of doing things. And then as you go deeper into the SMT method, we start developing systems of accelerating habits. And what I do that stands out from all other programs that I know about out there is I don't have an A, B, C plan to get to D. What I have is a formula that in a journey that we put together, and as each individual goes through that, their experience is as unique as they are. It's as unique as their desires, their vision, their conditioning, their patterns, paradigms. It's unique to the individual, because that's the only way I could, and that's how I learned it. That's the only way I could start incorporating the change. When I was trying to do the one size fit all, I'm not a one size fit all person. Neither is anybody else. So there's only less than 98% of people taking those programs doesn't achieve anywhere near what the person who put it together achieved. Because what that person did is they found their roadmap that built the program. It worked for them. It doesn't work for everybody else. And what I do in my coaching in the SMT method is geared to the uniqueness of the individual client that I'm working with. And that's what makes a huge difference in results.
So how does it work for larger teams, a team of 100, 150, 200? How does it work?
Yeah, we can do the same thing in a group. I still do some one-on-one coaching with a group that large, but it's really about the process. And every individual that goes through it has their unique experience to them. And again, their desires, their conditioning, all of that. So even though there's 100 people going through it, as we start, meeting in the group meetings and start talking and stuff, like every person in there gets something different out of each module or each section that we're going through. Every person in there develops different, unique systems of accelerating habits that work for them. It may not work for anybody else, but it works for them.
That's really efficient, Joseph. Superb. And many entrepreneurs, in fact, not restricting to entrepreneurs, but managers or uh, seniors, they feel like, or they portray as if they need to sacrifice their personal lives, their time, everything for business success, for achieving those targets, those goals. What advice do you have for someone struggling with this mindset, specifically those who are managing people?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And it's really based on conditioning. We're taught that that's how we, what we have to do. When I was growing up, I constantly heard that a man gets a job, supports a family, and hopefully lives long enough to enjoy some years in retirement. And that's what we're conditioned to shoot for, is that retirement. So we beat up our health, we discard our family, we do all this stuff to get to that point when we could really be enjoying the journey as we're going through it. We can be, but the only way I have found to do that is to identify and shift that subconscious conditioning that is really working against us.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the mind, our mind works perfect because our mind is always trying to solve complex problems.
Yeah.
So the thinking we get from the conditioning, which is a voice we hear in our head that says, oh my God, what if I get fired, or what if this, or what if that? And so all of a sudden we start doing more and more and more and more, and we get on that in that rabbit hole. And all of a sudden we're years down the line, and now we're having health issues and things like that, trying to follow that when really like I said, our minds is just trying to find problems that it can solve, even when there's not problems there. That's all part of the conditioning.
That's true. That's true. Lovely.
The other thing I tell people is slow down on building your strategies, your exhaustive to-do list, your endless hours of efforts of what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it. Slow down on that, because what will happen as I get my clients to slow down on doing those things, all of a sudden they'll overhear a conversation, or all of a sudden they become more receptive for things showing up easier. But as long as we're doing 150 miles an hour through life trying to make things happen, we miss all of that outside influence that can really change our results. And when I tell you this, Anna, it's not just me. I told you I was a guinea pig. It's not just my life. It's hundreds of clients that I've served over the past decade, a little over a decade now, that have experienced results like that. Like taking a company from $300,000 revenue to $3 million in 12 months. And now the person's come back and says, man, I'm bumping into some other conditioning. I don't know what it is, but I want to get to 5 million. And we start working. And these, people they have the impact of the SMT method as far as results in people's lives is honestly more like beyond what I even thought was going to be possible. I'm just in awe when I see my clients have a breakthrough in the things they achieve and how easily it's done.
That's really, really, exciting to know, and more power to you, Joseph, on this. And another observation, or you have been described as having infectious energy, which I can vouch for. How do you personally maintain balance and well-being in your own life now while running such a high energy and demanding career?
Yeah. Like what energizes me with this, Sana, honestly, is it like this is my passion. I believe it's my life mission. It's to impact millions of people with the works I do. So I am typically, especially when I start talking about this stuff, very excited. But I go fly fishing, I motorcycle, I hang glide, I do things to create balance, and they're all things I enjoy, and they bring how when you're doing something you love, it's almost like by doing it, it energizes you.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in corporate America, if I was in the office 2 days in a row after 5 o'clock, I would be ticked off. I'd feel cheated. I'd this and that, all this other stuff. I'd be crabby and everything, and I'd go home. There's times now when I'll do things all day long, and then I'll go home and hang out, and then I'll come back at like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I'll start doing some recordings in the studio right outside my office here. And there's times I'll be there till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I can't sleep when I get done. I'm so excited.
Wow.
And if you think about that, business owners, like when I work with somebody and they're disgruntled and discontent and scared and all the stuff that goes along with a business and such, and I get them to the point where things are starting to spark, they're starting to see the results showing up and stuff, man, they get so excited. And when we're in that mode, it's almost like we have endless hours to do everything we want to do.
Exactly.
We never run out of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
so true. That's so true. Wow.
So, and the other reason this is really near and dear to my heart, because my parents they're both passed, but they were really, really, really good people. And there
Mhm.
weren't these tools available back then. And I watched that struggle and I watch it beat up there on their relationship, beat up on their health,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. I watched that happen. And man, son, I don't ever want to see another person go through that again. And that's the reason why next year I'm launching an institute to certify other coaches in the SMT method so that I can grow its impact it's having on the world now and even after I'm gone.
That's really empowering. That's really empowering, Joseph. It's the gift you are
Thank you.
giving to others, and spreading the awareness out there for this generation, for the next generations coming. That's really, it's incredibly inspiring for all of us. That
Yeah.
not only just to leverage the gift or the knowledge we have got, the wisdom we have got, it's to impart it to others and helping it spread out as
Yeah.
wide.
In what better way is there to live than as a servant?
That's true. That's true. That's really very.
I went through all the struggles. I went through all the pains. I would never want to repeat that again, but I'm so grateful I went through that because it helps me to relate with other people, but it also helped me that drive from within my heart leading me. I was able to come across this, and what took me decades to learn and implement now takes my clients weeks. So
Okay, so if our listeners want to explore about your subconscious mindset training method and also connect with you, explore the wisdom you're imparting, how can they do that?
yeah, anybody can go to SMT Method and schedule a half-hour call with me, and we'll get on there. It's not a sales call; it's just to talk about this stuff. If you're have your own business, or you're in a sales lead, or any type of lead role, or you're an entrepreneur, and it's not working as smooth as you thought it would in your vision up front, call me. I'd love to talk to you about that and see if we can find some ways of start shifting that right from when we hang up the phone.
Super.
smtmethod.com.
Super. We'll mention all the details in the show notes for our listeners. And
Mm-hmm.
Joseph, before we wrap up, any practical tips or strategies you would recommend just to begin with to be
Yes.
aware about the subconscious mind, or maybe do some small practices to realize or understand how we can tap into this for our listeners?
Yes. Anybody who has a business, at a point before you started the business, you had a vision for what that business would be. You had a vision for how you would live with that business. And then we started and all kinds of things happen. And all of a sudden we're like, wow, this isn't so go back to that vision, sharpen that vision up, look at that life. And if you could stay in that place of seeing that, if you can stay in that place of just feeling, how's it going to feel when your business is to the level you want it to be before you even took the first step into opening the business. If you lean into that, that will start opening up the doorway. In the SMT method, we call that a dynamic vision. And we right out of the chute, we develop a dynamic vision, and I've used it in my life and every client I've served. I use it in organizations and bankruptcy back to profitability, all that stuff. It started with the vision. If you can get clarity on that vision and not go up into your head to try and come up with a strategy of how you're going to do it from where you're at right now, but just come up with that vision and enjoy that,
Mhm.
like feeling it, enjoy seeing that, what it's going to look like. All of a sudden you will notice things start showing up. And I don't mean you have to do that 8 to 10 hours a day or anything else. If you take 5 minutes in your morning or before you go to bed or whatever, and just spend 5 minutes in that vision of that and building that in the thought of, that there will put you in a place where you'll start noticing some differences coming. Now,
Mm.
it's the SMT method is designed to tap into the conditioning and then has the tools to shift it to start bringing about rapid changes. So as far as the conditioning goes,
Mhm.
when you start this is a great tool. Oh my God, when you start feeling that or hearing that in your head, that voice in your head about like why you can't, or the economy, or whatever it is, whatever it comes up as being, if you can just lean back into that vision, it
Mhm.
will dissolve all drunken monkey thinking type of stuff. So that you don't have to deal with it. You don't have to overcome it. You can just ignore it by getting into that place and building a little bit of excitement into that vision of feeling that vision, living that life of being you in that vision with your business, skyrocketed and doing what you visioned it to do and everything else, and how you live your life and the free time and, your finances, all of that, relationships, and just really lean into that. That will dissolve. You don't even have to take an action into. Now, I will say this though, Sana, is that's a Band-Aid. Because until you identify and shift the conditioning, it's always going to be playing. So, but short term, a way to Band-Aid or bridge that for a moment and to start seeing some changes happening is just start thinking of that vision, putting some thought and feeling tone into that vision.
Definitely. Lovely, Joseph. Thank you so much for such an interesting and insightful conversation on subconscious mind. And we'll definitely mention all the details in the show notes for our listeners to refer to. And your approach to achieving work-life balance through subconscious mindset alignment, it's truly unique and it's inspiring, and it's really path-breaking. So I'm sure our listeners are walking away with valuable tools to apply in their own lives.
And I'd love to hear from some of you guys and talk about what's going on and how we can start shifting some of that.
Definitely. And for those of you listeners who are interested in learning more about Joseph's work or exploring his coaching services, be sure to check the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And thanks to everyone for tuning into this episode of the Mindful Living podcast. And we'll catch you next time.
Awesome. Be blessed.